Hey y'all, one of the biggest things that gets confused is about paleo and low carb. Oftentimes people will say paleo and they'll think low carb, or they'll say low carb and think paleo. They think these two things are intertwined, but they're absolutely not. Now, you can eat paleo and also be low carb at the same time, but you do not have to be low carb to eat paleo, because low carb is this kind of weird nebulous term, right? Low, well, low in comparison to what? Who's low carbohydrate? And how do you know if you are low carbohydrate? What is the definition of low to you? I might say that I'm low carbohydrate, and that means one thing to me and something to somebody else. If you talk to someone who follows the standard ranges of carbohydrate intake, yeah, they're probably going to think that paleo eating is typically a little bit lower than that, because they eat most of the time the high end of the range on carbohydrates is going to be about 40% of calories in the paleo side, which is 5% less than the standard. So the standard idea is that you're going to get 45 to 65% of your calories from carbohydrate. Paleo, it's going to be much lower than that, and your top end is going to be closer to about 40% from carbohydrates. And that's because you're not eating a whole lot of processed refined carbs, and it can be really hard to get that much of a percentage from real food that's carbohydrate, because there are not a whole lot of carbohydrate rich foods that exist in Mother Nature, right? They're relatively limited, those starchy foods. But the funny thing is that if you actually go back to the 70s, the range that people were actually typically only eating about 42, 43% of their diet from carbs. So paleo is actually kind of closer to that than the normal range is now. So again, you can be low carb on paleo. You don't have to be low carb on paleo. Paleo typically is going to be lower carb, but that is not the same thing as low carb per se. So that's where that gets a little bit tricky, because honestly, if someone says, oh, you're low carb, I would ask them, well, define that for me. What do you mean by low carb? Because probably what they mean is just that you don't eat breads, rice, pastas, refined, grainy carbohydrates. That's really what most people mean. All right, that's the quick and dirty on that one. Send me more questions if you have them.